From the gas tax to her own re-election bid, I speak exclusively one-on-one with State Representative Sylleste Davis for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And be sure to download the free Quintin's Close-Ups app in your Apple or Google Play stores and listen to this interview later on iHeartRadio. Representative Sylleste Davis, it's so good to see you.
It's good to see you too.
I appreciate it greatly. You know, you and I were talking back and forth via text recently, and obviously, you had some sort of connection to the floodings in Conway, and I know my brother had to sit out for a whole month at Coastal Carolina.
Was it a month?
I believe so.
Wow.
Yeah, and now he's back up there.
Okay.
But, it's still devastated up there for a lot of people.
It is. And even one of our own representatives, Representative Heather Crawford,
Right.
she lives in the Sylleste area.
Yeah.
Her home was flooded, and so she's had a lot of work, not only for herself, but for her community.
Right.
That whole area has seen devastation. And the Conway area, and the area that I mentioned in my, I think I put it on maybe Facebook, or
Probably.
I can't remember exactly where I put it, but that area of Conway actually was the area of Conway that President Trump came and visited.
Right.
That church that was flooded,
Yeah.
that had gone in and taken the pews
Right.
out before the storm hit, that was the church that I attended when I lived in Conway, and that was where I was baptized.
Wow.
As a teenager in that church, and we lived across the street from that church. So, although I didn't experience the devastation firsthand, I'd never seen any flooding to any degree really in that area. So it was just it's just really a difficult situation for those people to have to deal with, and they're going to be dealing with it for a while.
And I hope I'm not being too personal, but I know your sister, I believe, had
Yes.
some issues right after the flooding.
Yes. Well, my sister lives on the Waccamaw River,
Right.
and she they South Carolina DOT came in and put sandbags, very, very large sandbags, along Highway 501 going from Conway into Myrtle Beach,
Right.
in order to make sure that section of road stayed open and that Myrtle Beach wasn't totally isolated. And so my sister lives in a neighborhood just off Highway 501, and they were actually blocked out of their neighborhood by the sandbags. She has a home that's built up off the ground.
Right.
They park their cars underneath.
Wow.
And the water came all the way up to just below the decking that goes into the house.
My God.
Yeah. So they've got a lot of work they're doing cleaning up.
Right.
One sort of surprising thing that they're having to deal with is sand. They have an enormous amount of sand that came from the river onto the land in their neighborhood. I mean, in some areas, 2 feet of sand. It's like a beach. And so now they're having to work to try to figure out how to get all that sand out of their neighborhood so they can clear the road and get everybody back into their homes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let me get back to you.
Okay.
Obviously dealing with your sister and as far as helping her out, you've actually had to campaign for your re-election bid for South Carolina State House of Representatives.
Yes.
What is it like to be you, Sylleste Davis, a candidate right now and a current state representative?
Well, it's busy. It's busy. I stay busy. I like staying busy. I retired from Santee Cooper in 2014,
Right.
and I went through a certain period there where I did a lot of things, volunteer work, cleaning out the closets at home,
Wow.
just sort of, just really trying to find something to keep myself busy and find some way to be involved in my community.
Right.
So it's busy. I stay busy. I like to be busy. So as a candidate and as a legislator, you
Right.
sort of have to juggle those two roles.
Sure.
And so both by themselves keep you busy, but together it's more busy. But I enjoy it, and I'm having fun, and just meeting people and getting out in the community and trying to learn more about what people need and what people want and what I can do for them. So I've enjoyed it. It's been fun.
You talk about the needs that people want. What are they telling you exactly about this district?
Well, I mean, it's the same, concerns that we've seen over the last few years.
Okay.
Number one is transportation. People are concerned about their roads. They're concerned about the condition of the roads. They're concerned about traffic. They're concerned about a vision. Is there a vision for the infrastructure that's going to underpin all of this growth that we're seeing in Berkeley County? So I would say that roads continues to be probably the number one issue that we're seeing. And will we have enough schools? Do we have enough firehouses? Do we have enough EMS services? Is our jail big enough? Berkeley County's seeing some growing pains right now, and I think we will see those for the foreseeable future just because of the rate of growth. We've got to be very careful about how we manage that growth because growth provides opportunities and provides challenges, and so it's just going to take everyone working together to find solutions to figure out where we need to go.
What are the challenges and what are the solutions in your mind?
Well, there again, I mean, the challenges are the roads, and one thing that's of particular interest to me is ensuring that the money that is collected through the gas tax, number one, is spent specifically for the maintenance of roads and bridges as it was intended, as it's laid out in the law, and number two, that money comes back to Berkeley County, that we are seeing that money in Berkeley County. And so just recently, there's been gas tax money. I think it was $1.2 million or so. I'm not quite sure about that number. I think that's the right number. That money was set aside to repay 402, which is a major road from the Monks Corner area, Berkeley County, into Charleston County. Right. So we are seeing some gas tax money spent in Berkeley County. I just want to make sure that we continue to see that, and that the money is spent the way it's intended to be spent.
And, you know, obviously when you talk about the gas tax, how will that fare out in Berkeley County in the future, in your mind?
How will it fare?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you mean?
Well, how will it help Berkeley County?
Oh, how will it help Berkeley County? Well, actually, there's money that has been earmarked, if you will, okay, for Berkeley County and the roads in Berkeley County. And actually, you can go to the SCDOT website and look at how that money's supposed to be spent in Berkeley County. It's over $8 million that's set aside at this point. I will continue to keep an eye on that and make sure that the money's spent. So I think that we will see our fair share of the money, of the gas tax money.
And obviously, you just mentioned that you're a current state legislator, that is. If I were to pull up your voting record, what would I see?
Well, I mean, I think you would see a conservative vote. I just recently got an endorsement by a small business association, not the Small Business Association, but an association that deals with small businesses. So I think the business community recognizes that I do have a voting record that supports business. I have a voting record that supports the farmers, and the Farm Bureau has supported me. I have a conservative voting record. Now, some people will argue with me about the gas tax vote and that was not a conservative vote. The way I saw it, there was not a way out. Some folks did say, well, we don't need to have a gas tax because the money is there. The DOT has the money, but no one was showing us where the money was. I'm okay with that. I'm fine. I do not want to raise taxes unnecessarily. And really, I don't want to raise taxes at all. But there does come a time when, if there's not another solution that presents itself, then something has to be done. And the way the gas tax is structured is that the people that use the roads are paying for the roads. It's not certainly a perfect solution, but it is a solution, and it does get us more money for the maintenance of our roads, which we desperately need. I understand we're about 10 years behind or more.
And so then my question is this: where is your confidence in the Department of Transportation?
Well, I have a lot of confidence in the leadership of the Department of Transportation. People work very, very hard. I see them working hard every day. I see, the workers, the folks that are out there patching our potholes. I've seen them out there in the rain. Now, can you patch a pothole adequately in the rain? No, you can't. But they're coming back and fixing the problems and addressing the problems. So I have confidence I'm still concerned about the way we fund our roads in the state. It's a very convoluted, complex method. I'm concerned about transparency of how the money is spent. And in fact, I've talked recently with some folks, one being the South Carolina comptroller, about, because he has on his website, he has a link for fiscal transparency.
Sure.
And part of that is how the gas tax money is spent. So I want to see more transparency in how that money's spent. And if I don't get it, I'm probably going to introduce some legislation that will require SCDOT to provide more transparency.
And that gets me to my next question. If you were to be re-elected to your particular seat, what pre-filed bills do you have right now in your mind?
I'm going to file a couple of bills that I filed last year.
Okay.
One is dealing with government efficiency.
Okay.
Because I do believe that there should be a concerted effort to review all of our state agencies on a regular basis, have them develop their budgets from the ground up, put a team of people together to look at ways to make government more efficient, to make government smaller, to find, to save money. Ideally, I would like to go in and reduce personal income tax. There was a bill that was introduced last session by Representative Tommy Pope.
Right.
I signed on as a co-sponsor. I would love to see state income tax reduced. I would love to see counties fully funded. But, we need to make sure that we've got some efficiencies in place as well. So we're not just moving money around, we're actually reducing the cost of doing government. So I've got those in mind. A woman came to me about a bill that would require inspections for balconies, wooden balconies that are on rental property. Her son was killed when he fell through a balcony of a rental property. And so that's something that's very important to her, and I think important to the people, because when you rent a property, you assume certain things about it. You assume that it's a safe structure, and if our balconies aren't safe, then I think that needs to be addressed. So there will be something there that I'll introduce. We've got to make sure that our first responders, our officers, our firemen are being covered adequately when it comes to PTSD. There's been some issues in the past between the workers' comp coverage of PTSD, or lack of actually, and coverage of PTSD under insurance. Because if something happens with an officer and he or she is still an active duty officer, then there becomes a gray area about who covers PTSD treatment. So I think we need to work on that. We need to work on funding school resource officers. We need to work on funding flood relief. FEMA will cover 75% of those costs. The state's going to have to step in and cover the 25%. We want to make sure that our counties and municipalities are quickly reimbursed for that 25%. So we've got a lot that's on our agenda. We still have Santa Cooper issue, SCANA issue, the nuclear construction issue that's out there. I would like to see some energy efficiency legislation. There are a lot of ideas. I could probably go on and on about that longer than you want me to go on.
We got plenty of battery right here.
So anyway, I have a lot of ideas. Mm-hmm.
We talked to you about another issue that's going on in Berkeley County, and I want to get back to those other issues you just mentioned.
Okay.
But it was all about tires in
Right.
Berkeley County this past summer.
Right.
Can you give me the who, what, when, why, and why now?
Where it originated, sort of the history of it.
Exactly.
I'll have to admit, I don't know a lot about the history. It was something that was agreed upon. The Vigo recycling facility was agreed upon and came into the county before I got involved.
Okay.
They were permitted by DHEC to have X number of tires on site. They started going over that. DHEC came in and inspected and wrote them a citation. to the effect that they were over their allowed number of tires to be recycled. They basically ignored DHEC to the point where there was a lawsuit that was filed against them. I don't know the status of the lawsuit as of right now. As you know, it got to be such a problem, and it looked like Vivo Recycling was going to step away from their responsibility, and so DHEC had to get involved, and the county had to find someone that could come in and take those tires and recycle them. The state did step in through a fund, money that's set aside for situations such as this. So the state stepped in and provided the county with some funding to get the tires cleaned up. My concern is looking forward, because there are plenty of people that are handling the situation and handling the cleanup. My concern is making sure that we don't get ourselves as a state into this situation again. So DHEC has put together a committee looking at all of their regulations concerning recycled tires. I want to make sure that DHEC is given the authority to act quicker, even if we have to give them the ability to act quicker under certain circumstances, because this situation went on way too long. Vivo Recycling was given way too much time to show that they were going to clean up the site, and of course, as you know, they never did. And then the state was on the hook for the cleanup. And we shouldn't find ourselves in that kind of situation. So this committee is working on what we need to do to make sure that doesn't happen again.
And a lot of people were asking about the Santee Cooper Scanner potential merger, and obviously the utility issue. Where are we with this discussion right now in your mind?
Well, the General Assembly has put together a committee that is looking at, they were charged with looking at the value of Santee Cooper, what it brings to the state, and then the potential for a buyer. That's what the committee was there to do. The committee is meeting again tomorrow, I believe. They've talked with Santee Cooper, they've talked with the co-ops. They're doing a lot of good work, trying to figure out what belongs to the state, what value, again, like I said, what value Santee Cooper brings to the state. What we need to do to protect the state, to protect the ratepayers. There are a lot of very, very good people at Santee Cooper, people that were not involved in what it got us to the point where we are now. The linemen, the retail workers, the admin staff. There are a lot of people that do a lot of good things every day to keep the lights on and to try to keep rates as low as possible. I've thought back over my time at Santee Cooper, 31 years, and I was never in a meeting where we were not talking about how to lower costs. And in fact, there for about 10 years, I had a group that bought and sold electricity to other utilities on an hourly basis. It's sort of a real-time, there's a real-time wholesale market of electricity. And so in every hour, the people that work for me were looking at what is it going to cost Santee Cooper to generate the next hour of electricity, the next megawatt. In the wholesale world, that's how you measure electricity, through megawatts, megawatt hours. So they were constantly looking at what is our cost to produce and what can we buy it for. In other words, can we buy electricity for a cheaper rate than we can produce it ourselves? And they're doing that on an hourly basis. And so my job for 10 years, and that group's job, still their job today, is to find every hour how can we save the ratepayers money. And so that's been the mindset of a lot of people at Santee Cooper for a very long time. How do we provide low-cost, reliable energy that's environmentally responsible? And so I think that the committee will find that to be true, that there are a lot of people doing a lot of good things, that Santee Cooper over the years has done a lot of good things for the state, that it's a lot more complicated an issue than you might think, but things are moving along. All of that to say, things are moving along. it's a little slow, but it needs to be slow. This is not something that we want to jump into or out of, as the case may be, quickly.
And let me get back to the gas tax.
Mm-hmm.
If you could go back and vote for that again, how would you vote differently in your mind?
If I could go back, I've talked with a lot of people.
Okay.
A lot of people are against it. A lot of people are for it because we realize that the roads need to be fixed. If I had to go back and vote again, I would probably vote the same way I voted. I would want additional assurances in the language that money was going to be spent as intended. I think the language is there, but I would want to strengthen that language. I would want to strengthen the transparency requirements for DOT so that people know. I think that people feel like if they are going to pay a little bit extra at the pump in order to have their roads better, they want to know that the money's being spent as intended, and they want to see results. They want to see results in their neighborhoods. So I would strengthen the language on the prioritization, the transparency, and the language that ensures that money is spent only as intended.
If I were a Berkeley County resident, why should I vote for you?
Well, I think that I'm conservative. Some may argue with that, but I think I've shown that I'm conservative. I have a solid business background, which I think is important. I can bring people together. I can work well with other people, and that is so important. I cannot emphasize that enough because we as a county have to figure out what role we're going to play in the state arena. Back in the day, Berkeley County was a state powerhouse. We had some very influential politicians. Now, were there some backroom deals made? Probably. We don't need to be doing that, obviously, but Berkeley County is a growing, thriving county, and we've got opportunities at the state level where we can ensure that we're getting sort of our share of the pie, if you will. I think I can work together with people to do that. I think I've shown that I can stay calm under circumstances. I can continue to show respect for people and reach out to people and listen to people. And I have sort of that common sense, conservative background that I think helps get us where we need to be.
Representative Sylleste Davis, thank you so much for your time. I really, really appreciate this.
Thank you, Quintin.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it so much.
Anytime.